Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Virgo. You've been noticing something unexpected in your energetic field lately, haven't you? Attention coming from directions you weren't anticipating, from people whose interest catches you off guard, not just because of who they are, but because of the generational gap or life stage difference. And what's making this particularly interesting is that it's not just one person, multiple energies are lighting up around you simultaneously, creating social complexity that's both amusing and slightly disorienting. Let me share what I'm perceiving in the magnetic flux surrounding you right now. The first thing breaking through is this recognition you might be experiencing that someone significantly younger than you is demonstrating genuine, romantic, or deeply affectionate interest. You could be picking up on attention that initially seemed friendly or respectful, but has revealed itself as attraction. Someone whose age you're acutely aware of, whose different life stage makes their regard for you feel complicated rather than straightforwardly flattering. You might be sensing their sincerity. This isn't casual flirtation, but actual investment. And that earnestness is making you feel simultaneously honored, confused, concerned about appropriateness, and if you're being honest with yourself, maybe a little bit intrigued despite all the logical reasons you're telling yourself this doesn't make sense. Here's what you could be observing in your actual social landscape. You might be noticing that this younger person shows up differently around you than they do with others, is less than hash zero. 5 hash is greater than more attentive, more nervous, more deliberately impressive in ways that signal they're trying to be seen as mature enough, capable enough, interesting enough to be considered by you. You could be picking up on their effort to bridge the gap, dropping references to prove their sophistication, downplaying aspects of their youth, emphasizing commonalities, and watching them work to present themselves as viable option for you is endearing even as it highlights exactly the differences they're trying to minimize. What's swirling through the social atmosphere is that you could be dealing with multiple people entering your orbit simultaneously. You might be sensing increased social attention generally, not just from this younger person, but from various sources, creating this sensation of suddenly being more visible, more appealing, more on people's radar than you were experiencing before. You could be picking up on shift in how you're being perceived. Maybe something about your energy has changed. Maybe you've stepped into confidence that reads as magnetic. Maybe you're just finally being seen by people who were around you all along but weren't really looking. And this collective awakening to your appeal is creating social dynamics you're not entirely sure how to navigate. This reflection invites you to consider what's changed in you that's making you more attractive to others right now, and whether increased external validation is confirming internal shift you've already felt, or whether it's revealing value you hadn't recognized in yourself until others started reflecting it back to you. You might be noticing that you're experiencing internal conflict about the younger person's interest specifically. You could be picking up on societal messaging about age gaps, making you question whether their attraction is appropriate to even consider, whether entertaining their interest makes you predatory or foolish, whether the difference in life experience creates inherent power imbalance that makes reciprocation unethical regardless of what you feel. You might be sensing your own attraction, however nascent or resistant, butting up against internalized rules about who you're allowed to desire. And sorting through what's genuine concern about dynamics versus what's just fear of judgment from others who might not understand is work you're doing right now. What's radiating through the interpersonal networks is that you could be dealing with someone whose youth actually brings fresh perspective you find appealing. You might be picking up on ways their less jaded worldview, their different cultural references, their divergent life stage offers something your same age peers don't. Energy that feels lighter, less encumbered by disappointments you and your age matched options carry. You could be sensing that generational difference creates possibility for learning and growth rather than just obstacle. And recognizing that age gap can be enriching rather than automatically problematic is allowing you to consider possibility you would have dismissed immediately if you were only consulting social conventions rather than your actual experience. What's particularly striking about what I'm witnessing is that you might be approaching period of increased romantic or social options generally. You could be sensing that it's not just about specific people, but about a general shift in your availability and desirability. That you're entering season where attention finds you rather than requiring you to pursue it. You might be picking up on multiple appearances, as you put it, people from your past resurfacing with renewed interest, new people entering your sphere, existing connections revealing romantic potential. And this abundance is creating both excitement about having choices and overwhelm about managing attention from multiple directions that each require different kind of response. Um, you might be observing that you're experiencing pressure to take the younger person's interest seriously as complement to your sustained attractiveness. You could be picking up on your own ego being stroked by evidence that you're still appealing to people in their prime, that your age hasn't made you invisible or irrelevant to younger generations' attention. You might be sensing that part of the appeal of their interest is what it says about you, that you're vital, that you're current, that you transcend the limitations society places on people your age. And being honest about that narcissistic element doesn't make you shallow, it makes you human. But it's also important to distinguish between enjoying validation and actually wanting relationship with person providing. It What's threading through the relational possibilities is that you could be dealing with a question of what you're actually seeking right now. You might be sensing that attention is available, but unclear about what you want to do with that attention is less than #0. 5 is greater than whether you're ready for serious partnership, whether you want casual connection, whether you're even interested in romantic engagement at all, or whether you're enjoying the validation without desiring the relationships. You could be picking up on need to get clear with yourself before responding to any of these interested parties. Because leading people on while you figure out your own desires is unfair to them, even if it's unintentional on your part. This reflection invites you to consider what you're actually available for in this season of your life and whether the attention you're receiving aligns with what you have capacity and desire to give in return. or whether you're enjoying being wanted more than you actually want to be in relationship with people who want you. You might be noticing that you're experiencing concern about power dynamics with the younger interested party. You could be picking up on your awareness of greater life experience, potentially greater financial resources, broader social network, all factors that create imbalance favoring you in ways that could be exploitative if not navigated carefully. You might be sensing responsibility that comes with their interest obligation to not abuse advantage you have, to be clear about your intentions, to not lead them into situation that serves you while harming them. And that ethical consideration you're holding is evidence of your integrity, even as you're processing what you actually feel about their interest. What's also surfacing is that you could be dealing with judgment from others about the age gap if you were to pursue the younger person. You might be experiencing anticipatory anxiety about what people would say, imagining criticism, mockery, accusations that you're having crisis or can't attract age appropriate partners. You could be picking up on how relationship choices become spectator sport once they violate social norms. And determining whether you're willing to withstand scrutiny for connection that might be genuine is part of calculation you're making about whether to explore their interest further or decline it based on external pressure rather than internal assessment. The vibrational signatures suggest you might be experiencing the younger person as more mature than their age suggests. You could be sensing that they've lived through experiences that aged them, that they demonstrate emotional intelligence or self awareness that exceeds what you'd expect given their years. You might be picking up on actual compatibility in values or communication styles that makes age difference less relevant than it appears on paper. And trusting what you observe in direct interaction over what assumptions about age gaps would predict is allowing you to see this person as individual rather than just as representative of their generation. What's significant is that you could be approaching moment where you need to make your availability clear to multiple interested parties. You might be sensing that vague social engagement without explicit boundaries is creating false hope in some, that people are interpreting your friendliness as flirtation, your kindness as interest, your openness as invitation. You could be picking up on need to communicate clearly where you stand and doing that work of explicit boundary setting, even when it's uncomfortable and risks hurting feelings, is maturity that protects everyone involved from prolonged ambiguity that ultimately causes more pain than honest directness would have. This reflection invites you to consider whether you've been sending mixed signals because you genuinely don't know what you want, or because you're enjoying attention without wanting to foreclose options by being too definitive, and what shifts when you recognize that the latter is actually unkind, even if unintentionally so. Um, you might be picking up on this increased attention as connected to something you're doing differently. You could be experiencing yourself as more visible on social media, more socially active, more confident in how you present yourself, more comfortable in your own skin in ways that register as attractive to others. You might be sensing that you're not actively seeking attention, but your increased presence or shifted energy is naturally drawing people toward you. And Understanding that dynamic helps you see this isn't about you trying to collect admirers, but about natural consequence of you becoming more authentically yourself. What I'm witnessing in the social matrices is that you could be dealing with opportunity to examine your own biases about age and attraction. You might be noticing assumptions you hold about what age difference is acceptable, where those assumptions came from, whether they're based on actual ethics or just cultural conditioning. You could be picking up on invitation to think more nuancedly about compatibility factors beyond age, and whether you discover that age actually matters a lot to you or that it matters less than you thought when other elements are aligned. This situation is giving you chance to clarify your own values rather than just accepting inherited ones. The resonant frequencies suggest you might be experiencing amusement at the absurdity of suddenly having multiple options. You could be sensing that after a period of feeling invisible or unwanted romantically, the sudden abundance feels almost comedic. Like universe is playing joke by giving you too much attention after you learn to be okay with none. You might be picking up on your own laughter at the situation and maintaining that lightness, that humor, that perspective that this is ultimately manageable social complexity rather than crisis is helping you navigate it without getting too serious or self important about the attention you're receiving. What's also coming through is that you could be dealing with recognition that most of these interested parties probably aren't right for you. You might be sensing that attention is flattering, but actual compatibility is rare. That you can appreciate being wanted without needing to pursue connection with everyone who expresses interest. You could be picking up on your own discernment, developing ability to receive attention graciously while still maintaining boundaries, and practicing saying, "Thank you for your interest, but I'm not available for that," is skill you're honing through this period of increased romantic attention. This reflection invites you to consider what you're learning about yourself through observing your responses to different people's interest, and whether patterns in who attracts you versus who you know you should be attracted to are revealing growth edges around choosing partners who actually serve your well being rather than patterns you're trying to transcend. You might be noticing that you're experiencing the younger person's interest as particularly intense or focused. You could be picking up on their relative inexperience, making them more earnest, more all in, less jaded than older people who've been hurt enough times to hedge their investments. And while that intensity can feel overwhelming, it's also refreshing contrast to calculated dating behavior you've encountered from age peers. You might be sensing appeal in being someone's priority rather than one of many options they're casually exploring. And that hunger for devotion is worth examining, whether you're drawn to their specific devotion or just devotion generally because you've been starved for focused attention. So, as you navigate this period of multiple romantic or quasi romantic interests converging on you simultaneously, practice staying grounded in what you actually want rather than getting swept up in flattery. You might be experiencing validation through attention, but validation isn't relationship. Interest isn't compatibility. Someone wanting you doesn't mean you should want them back. and the clearer you are about what you're actually seeking, whether that's serious partnership, casual fun, or continued solitude while you work on yourself, the more ethically you can respond to people who are revealing their interest. Trust your instincts about the age gap with the younger person. You might be getting clear message from your gut that it doesn't feel right, or alternatively that it feels more right than you're comfortable admitting given social stigma. Either way, trust that knowing, and don't let others' opinions override your own assessment of situation only you're actually in. You're the one who has to live with consequences of whatever choice you make. Make sure you're choosing from your truth rather than from fear of judgment or desire for others' approval. Enjoy the abundance without needing to act on all of it. You might be experiencing social feast after extended famine, but you don't have to gorge yourself just because food is available. You can be selective. You can say no. You can appreciate being seen as desirable while still choosing nothing if nothing feels genuinely aligned. And that selectivity, that willingness to wait for actual right fit rather than settling for best available option, is self respect. That will serve you far better than any relationship you enter from scarcity or flattery. The attention is real. The interest is genuine. The younger person's feelings are valid even if you ultimately don't reciprocate them. And all these appearances in your field right now are showing you something important. You're magnetic, you're vital, you're visible, and that's not going anywhere. So you don't need to rush into anything just because people are noticing you. Let them notice. Let yourself be flattered. And when you're ready, when someone appears who isn't just interested but actually right, when compatibility matches attraction and timing aligns with readiness, then choose. Until then, it's okay to just be the object of affection without becoming subject of anyone's relationship. You're allowed to not be available, even when people want you to be, especially when you're still figuring out what you want. Stay with that process. The clarity will come